Alrighty, so today we're doing a how to change your wood chipper blade for the 4090 and the 4003 wood chipper. Now, we've had these chippers for a long time, and this is the old blade setup, which is dimensionally the same as the new blade, but it uses a hex Allen style bolt, which can be difficult in certain occasions. If it gets stuck, you tend to have to drill these out, which can be a pain. So we are no longer using this style, and we're switching to a new style. The new style is the same looking blade, same size, but you can see we've extended the chamfer right to the outside, and we're also going to a hex, an outer hex style bolt, which can handle the torque much better, and also it won't get as much material stuck in it because due to the centrifugal forces of it whipping around, the material can fly out. There's no pockets in this design, so it'll stay cleaner, and it will also handle the torque going in and out much better as well over time. So if you get a new chipper, it'll obviously come with this setup already, and it will also come with a socket that is meant for the bolt. It's a 16 mil, but it has been machined on the end to fit properly. So if you get a new chipper, this will come with the chipper. If you are buying a set of blades, make sure you also purchase the socket as well. And a great place to store this socket is in the safety manual canister on the chipper. That way it always stays with the machine. Before you get started on the project, of course, if you're gonna be putting new blades in, have your set of blades ready to go. On this chipper here, I'm gonna be swapping them from the used side to the fresh side on the set of blades because they are double-sided, of course. And if you're swapping them, past 7-8 times, you might want to look at getting new bolts too, depending on what shape they're in too. You'll notice these new bolts as well are now zinc coated compared to the old bolts, which are just a raw black oxide. So these will handle the corrosion much better as well, which is also another benefit. So first thing you're going to need is your rotor lock. This will come with a chipper as well. You're going to slide that down through the rotor to keep it from spinning away on you when you're trying to tighten and loosen your bolts. An O-ring pick could be a flat screwdriver. If you have a bit of residue around the head of the bolt, you can simply just go around and remove that residue. Sometimes it's sap or a bit of bark, but with this new design, that'll be greatly reduced. Your special socket that's going to come with the chipper or with your purchase of a new set of blades, that'll have to be purchased. It doesn't come for free, so talk to parts and service about that as well, but they're not very expensive. An extension, this is a 24 extension, super overkill. You don't need one this long. A 12-inch, anything at 12-inch and over is great. And if you really want to, you can take two 6-inch extensions and put them together as well. Torque wrench, we're looking for 35 foot-pounds on these blade bolts. And so we have a 1/2-inch extension here. And again, if you don't have one, you're not gonna go out and buy a super expensive Milwaukee or Snap-on torque wrench. There's no need for that. Or pick up something, mid-range, and you're going to use it for your blade bolts that when you have to do your ATV or maybe your lug nuts in your car, you can use it as well, so it will come in handy beyond just the chipper too sort of thing. So a can of anti-seize is also important because these bolts are requiring anti-seize just like the old bolts. We want 35 foot-pounds with anti-seize to make sure that these come out when you want to get them out. And beyond that, I just have some general all-purpose soap here with a rag because I'm going to take my existing blades out, clean them up, flip them, and put them back in. Alrighty, so I have my handy dandy cart. I got some tools in it here, and this is our chipper. First thing you're gonna wanna do, hit the E-stop to make sure that for some reason it can't start. Obviously there's a safety switch in the infeed chute too, but it's a good precaution to do. Then you're gonna go ahead, release these clamps, and there's 4 clamps on this chute. Now, removing the infeed chute is a little bit difficult because it is not a light little piece of steel, and it's best done with 2 people, but I'm here by myself, and I find it best done. What I'll try to do is get my hip under it a little bit, kind of give it a pop, and grab it like this, up, and kind of let it slide down my leg a little bit on the floor just like that. Now, obviously be mindful, these blades are extremely sharp, so it's not something that you want to be clumsy with or, not be mindful. You want to be careful with what you do with these things because they are sharp just like a kitchen knife will be. And so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our little O-ring pick and we're going to clean out the hole for our rotor lock. And then after you got those two holes cleaned up, you can now go around all of the blade bolts and do the same thing. Just clean up any kind of sap or a little bit of dust that's left behind from the chipping process as well. Okay, so after that, you can go ahead, grab your lovely rotor lock, and you can go ahead and lock that rotor. And so once that rotor lock is in place, go ahead, grab your torque wrench, grab your extension, grab your little socket, and there you get your whole assembly. Like I said, this one's rather large, but it makes it easy. And go ahead and you're going to loosen these up. And just make sure when you're loosening these, you have good down pressure on the socket. So you can see me, I kind of make sure it's really on there. I'm kind of matching the angle, right? You can kind of see this kind of looks like it's a bit of an angle. That's because the blade is also tipped on a slight angle too. So I'm matching the angle, I'm pushing down, good hard pressure, and I go there and release it. And when I'm done, I can take my torque wrench if I really want to, and I can go ahead and I can spin these out at a bit of a quicker speed here, just like this. And from there, we have those 4 bolts out. We'll go ahead, take that blade out. And now we're on one blade. We'll flip over, pull that rotor lock out, and go on to the second blade. And from there, I'll do the same thing. Go ahead, snap my torque wrench on. From there, we're going to go ahead, clean these blades up a little bit, get them all nice and shiny. Our bolts still have, a good amount of anti-seize. They're not dirty on the threads. We will probably give them a quick clean, put more anti-seize on them before they go back in again. That anti-seize is going to keep things from corroding and rusting in place, and that way when you have to pull these out in, several months, or could be after a day of heavy chipping, you'll want to get these out so that anti-seize will really make a difference on that. Generic soap, nothing special. Give these a little spray. Again, be very mindful about how you move these blades around, because if you're going to slide your finger across that sharp edge, you will cut yourself. So be very careful to stay away from the sharp edge. And the important thing is that we don't want any sap or buildup underneath the bottom of the blade. We want it to be sitting right down on raw steel on steel. So that's why we're cleaning the bottom of the blade here, to make sure they sit perfectly flat. Alrighty, so we have our blades clean. Before we go ahead to stick the blade back on the rotor, we just got to make sure that mating surface on the rotor is also nice and clean too. So there she is, nice and clean. Take a blade, select the sharp side because we don't want to put the dull side back in, and so getting them in can be a little bit tricky, but you want to put them in there and then turn them into position. That all looks really good. And from there, we're going to take our trusty anti-seize. Now keep this stuff off your skin, because once you get it on your skin, it will just get absolutely everywhere. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a bolt. I like to remove my socket off of the extension, hold it in my hand, push it in there so it holds it. And from there, I'll take a little bit of anti-seize and just lightly coat the threads and a little bit of the chamfer on that bolt. All right, so now we got them all started, and you want to get them maybe started 2 or 3 turns with your finger. From there, we put our extension on and we just put them all the way down. You should not be using an impact for this job. This should be done solely with the help of a torque wrench and just your hands. You don't want to be tightening these first with an impact and then torquing them. You should be turning them in by hand or with the help of your extension, and then from there you put your torque on it. So these are now snugged with my extension. I'll put my torque wrench on, verify that I'm at 35 foot-pounds. Right there. And again, if I'm not sure what the torque spec should be, everything on the chipper, as far as the rotor and everything else, the top cap, the wheel lug nuts, everything is on this plate on the side of the machine here. So it says 35 foot-pounds with anti-seize. So anti-seize is critical. And from there, stick my setup on the first bolt, and there we go. Once we hear the click, we know we're good. Again, making sure I got downward pressure on it. Now, we will double check those torque specs after, but for now, we've torqued them the first time. We're going to turn the rotor and going to go ahead and place this second blade in position. Got to go ahead and clean that base for a quick second here to make sure there's no crud on the mating surface. So just a quick wipe. Quick visual inspection. Looks really good. All right, zip these in for a second. Torque wrench, verified 35, yep. Perfect. All right, so now the blades are back in place. We've torqued them once. Now, it's always required to check them twice. So what you're gonna do, pull that rotor out, put the rotor lock back in, go back to the first blade, and recheck it. Going from the inside out, just to make sure you don't miss anything. There we go. Those are set. Go back to your second blade. Do the same thing. Double check it now as well. Perfect. All right, that step is done. Now, the remaining step is just to make sure that the blades are sitting correctly against your bed blade or your anvil. So, rotor lock can come out. We're done with that. Take a flashlight, which is in my cell phone, and we're going to inspect the gap between the bed blade and our rotor blade. So that one looks really good. And that also looks pretty good too. You want to spin the rotor several times. Make sure you don't hear any funny noises. It should be a smooth operation. If you hear any ticking noises or any kind of rubbing, it needs to be inspected because it should be totally silent. So from there, the blades have been installed, they're checked, and we're going to go ahead, throw this infeed chute back on here. Now, before I put that infeed chute on, I'm going to do one important thing. Grab my socket here, give it a good little clean, put it back in that owner's manual canister. We don't want to lose this thing. It needs to stay with the chipper, so next time we got to do a blade change, it's here, ready to go. Okay, we tighten these clamps. There we go. All right, so that's how easy a blade change is on a 4090 or a 4003 chipper. Now, if you have questions about the process or you have troubles, let's say someone over torques these blade bolts way too far and you can't get the existing ones out, we've made a feature on top of the blade bolt, which is a little centered divot. so that they can be drilled out. And we have a video that covers the drilling process on these blade bolts as well. That being said, with the new design of the hex, it should remove the requirement for that substantially. But if you're in a pinch and you got questions, give us a call. We love talking to people and helping them out when they have questions. So other than that, keep it clean, double check your torque specs, and enjoy your chipper.